Hey there, this is Sensei Mitch on DojoChat. I'm here with Young Smith. We are talking coast to coast. I'm here on the West Coast, and he's all the way over on the East Coast in Jacksonville, Florida. Thank you for being with me today. Yeah, that's a little bit insane. Well, we've actually had some pretty nice weather out here, but because all the clouds disappear overnight, it's like freezing. So the last several nights, I've had to, even though it's been nice and warm during the day, I've had to go out and scrape my windows in the morning before going to work. So it's pretty. But 34 out on the West Coast or on the East Coast in Florida. I don't know your weather up in the northern area, but I know Bram, like 34 is you just unheard of. So, okay. Right on. Well, anybody tuning in, why don't you uh, chat, throw in the chat where you're from, ask a question, maybe say hi. Appreciate everybody viewing. So, Young, um, we have we've only known each other for a couple months, but we've been doing the same style of martial arts for years. So you're a Kyusho guy, I'm a Kyusho guy. You do some Arnis, I do some Arnis. So, what initially got you into the martial arts? Yeah, that's interesting. Okay. Oh, you know what? Why don't Oh, I think probably because I'm running the system, I hear your audio, but it may not be because it's being shown in the stream. That's why, because we're using a different audio device. So let's just play this. So we got three of you, but I don't know. We may just have to.
I'll just the phone.
Yeah, we'll hide this and we'll go off the phone.
So, how about that? TJ, can you hear us now? TJ is one of my students
Oh, okay.
from years ago. We'll see if he responds. Um, anyway,
Yeah.
so I'll backtrack just a tiny bit. Dad was in judo in the Air Force, and then in yes, sound is working. All right, awesome. So when I was a little kid, like 9 years old, the one of the highest ranking people in the United States Dirk Mosig was teaching a class, and he was a student of Robert Trias, who was arguably opened the first karate school in the United States. Shurei was the style, and I mostly just kind of played around as a kid, and then, but my dad was pretty serious. Got a broken rib one time sparring with the instructor. He said, if you raise your hand again, he kept doing a back fist, like a flying back fist, and he said, if you do that again, I'm going to kick you harder. And he kicked him pretty hard, and then he said, if you do it again, I'm going to kick you harder. Well, the third time he broke his rib. But my dad's tough. He's 79 right now and just recovering from COVID. It's pretty amazing. He would tape a football pad, thigh protector. He'd tape it to his ribs and go to class and train. It's pretty crazy. But I wasn't real serious about it as a kid, and I kind of thought I knew something. I probably had a decent front kick. We used to train with bicycle tubes, the like 10-speed rubber bicycle tubes. We'd hook it between our big toe
Okay.
and do kicks. And the same thing with punches. So I probably had a halfway decent punch and a halfway decent kick, but I was about this big. I was like a scrawny little toothpick. And so I thought I knew something, but I was also a wimpy kid and afraid of everything. So I avoided fights at all costs. And then we kind of moved around and visited a couple of schools on occasion. My dad still would train wherever he could. And then in ninth grade, back in 1981, tell you how old I am, we both started in Shotokan, Japanese style. And that was the beginning of my, so we started in Shotokan together and stayed in the ranks until 1987, maybe 88, 89 is when we met Jack Hogan.
Okay.
That's when we started our Kyusho journey, our pressure point journey.
Right on.
Yeah.
So what do you think? I'm gonna ask this of all the Q-Show guys that I interview, because we have people out there who like make dojo life. I've actually talked to Rob. In fact, I'd love to have him on here at some point. But we've chatted through Instagram, and it's he's on this mission to expose BS martial arts, but his focus is more on like the no touch stuff. So I mean, what do you, I don't know how much you've dabbled in the no touch. I think we talked a little bit about it at one point, but what's your take on that?
Well, it's kind of funny because the late Grandmaster Jack Hogan was on. There was another website called Bullshitto.
Yeah.
I think it's spelled with a D and not the T. And it's him doing some no touch stuff, and
Right.
they added some cool special effects and music and so it's a little hard to comment on that without mentioning a little bit of religious stuff. So I'm going to mention religious things, but I'm not preaching. I'm just kind of telling you my perspective.
Yeah, no worries. No worries.
So I've had no touch knockouts from Jack Hogan and other people. I've done no touch knockouts, and I've taught people how to do no touch knockouts. And I also, including Jack Hogan, would tell you when he was alive, there's no way in the world that he would depend on that for self-defense. So I'm a Christian. I'm, very, I don't think the word is religious, but people would call me religious. I'm a minister. I've got a master's degree from seminary, and I read Hebrew ancient Hebrew, and um, so so I have this unique background of years of ministry and years of things, and so I'll kind of get into an explanation of the differences. But I'll tell you this: the thing that kind of got me is um, I knew Grandmaster Hogan for a long time, so if I call him Jack, it's because we were friends.
Oh
Um,
yeah, no worries. Just yeah.
so Jack uh, would we got to know him, and he would talk about this pressure point stuff. And one day he came to my school, and we were talking about polarity, the difference between yin and yang. And so he said, "Well, here, let me try this technique." So he did a little gallbladder tap. So the preacher knockout.
Mhm.
When we do the forehead, he tapped the gallbladder on the opposite side also, and so he turned his hand this way, and he popped me, and thunk. My head went back like you could hear a thump.
Right.
Nothing. Not even, not the slightest buzz, not the slightest anything. Now, Jack was a tiny guy, but he was also, I forget what it was, a Green Beret or something. He was some kind of advanced military guy, and he was intense. He was an intense guy, and um, he tapped me, and then he kind of lowered his head for a second, and then he went and did the same movement with his palm forward, but he didn't touch me.
Okay.
And knees buckled, and my head went back, and I felt swirly in my head, and I had never heard of no touch anything ever. Now, I knew about knockouts, and I was, if you want to call it, sensitive to energy because I was a massage therapist. So, um, so I'm actually ranked in Reiki. I'm Reiki level 1, like that's the minimum bottom level.
Okay.
Um, so years ago, I became a massage therapist, and so I had no idea what the energy stuff was, and here this thing that he did without telling me worked. Now, before he passed away at one of the last seminars, um, he grabbed me just kind of out of the blue, end of the seminar. Young, can I do a knockout on you? I'm like, yeah, sure. Okay. So he puts me in front of, 100 black belts at a HKI seminar in Jacksonville. And he walks across the room, and then he just turns and stares at me. Now I've seen him do the no touch knockouts from up close and from far away. And I just wasn't feeling it. I was like, man, this is not going to work. Um, I'm just going to stand here, and it's going to look dumb, and it's going to be kind of embarrassing. Um, I kept my knees slightly bent because I know that if you keep your legs locked, you can pass out from that.
Right.
I wasn't fighting it. I wasn't like, don't, I can't, I'm not going to knock out. I'm not going to knock. I wasn't saying that in my head. I was just kind of like, I don't think this is going to work today. I just wasn't really sensitive to energy that day. I just kind of was a little, I was tired from the seminar, and just kind of, I was just standing there. Okay. And then you ever see one of the old TVs when you turn it off, and it's like the black
Yeah.
just closes in? Well, that's
Yeah.
what happened. So the black closed in on me, and I fell backwards. And as soon as I fell backwards, like I was awake. Like it didn't put me all the way out, but there was no reason for me to pass out.
Right.
Okay. Um, so there's something. I don't know what it is. Did he hypnotize me? Well, he didn't hypnotize me the first time that he did the knockout because I had no idea what it was about.
Right.
He didn't explain it to me. He didn't, he didn't convince me he was going to do something. Um, And then a couple of religious stories for you. So as I was learning about energy and the no touch stuff, and even just knockouts, just plain knockouts, I went to a church youth camp, youth retreat. And I was in the upper balcony, and they asked for people to come, for ministers to come to pray for people.
Okay.
So they were all lined up down front. People came forward for people to be prayed for. And I'm just kind of standing there watching, because I was up in the balcony. It was too far for me to go down and be, to be helpful. And there was plenty of people. So I'm just watching. And then a light bulb went off, and I noticed that right down the line, every person had their hands in a knockout position. Now, I don't think that they all had studied Kyusho, martial arts. I just think that they were sensitive to energy, and they put their hands where it felt right. And it felt right at the places where the most energy was.
Right.
Literally down the line, every single person, their hands were in a position that I had seen either a pressure point knockout or a no touch knockout. And so that was very enlightening to me.
Yeah.
Now, one more example. I went to a men's retreat, and an Episcopal men's retreat. Episcopalians are not known for emotionalism. They're known for the opposite. They're
Yeah.
they're probably more mellow than the Presbyterian, which is called the Frozen Chosen.
Yeah. I was actually raised Episcopalian.
Okay, all right. So
Yeah.
so that's
Yeah.
very, very mellow.
Right.
So we had this priest come in and speak, and oh my gosh, he was amazing. Monotone, but amazing. He was very mellow, almost monotone, but what he said was powerful. So he had you kind of on the edge of your seat listening, because he was a good storyteller, even though there wasn't enthusiasm in his voice. So at the end of the first session, it was a Friday night, so we had a little bit of worship music. Then we did the teaching. I think literally it was just like one sort of mellow worship song. Then he did the teaching, and then he said, "Would anyone like prayer?" Yeah, I like prayer. Sign me up. Let's do it. So I'm waiting to get prayed for, and he is over there praying for people, and there's some people standing around, and I watch, and people start doing they start dropping, and it wasn't a bunch of emotionalism. There was nobody collecting money. There was no special. There were no TV cameras. It was a small group of men. Um, there was nothing to, no reason to show off. And
Right.
so finally, okay, I'm going to go up. I'm going to be prayed for. I said, Lord, though, I'm not falling down unless you make me fall down. I don't have any reason to fall down. There's no
Right.
benefit to me falling down, but I'm happy to stand here and get prayed for. So I'm standing there getting prayed for, and all of a sudden, it's like a bucket of warm water hit me in the chest. Just this splash of warmth and joy and peace, and I was just kind of like, this feels nice. I think I'm going to lay down. um, and so I tell you that whole story to tell you that I really think that there is a difference. And I'm happy to go into it at some time if somebody wants to have a religious discussion in further detail. But I really see it as the power of God. I think that was the power of God moving through me, through
Okay.
the priest to me. I think what Jack Hogan does and the energy stuff, I like to use the term bioelectricity. We all have we're all like walking batteries or magnets. You know, we have this magnetic field around us. This energy about us. And I think somehow my energy can affect your energy.
Right.
You walk into a room and you don't like somebody immediately. You just have this feeling, this gut feeling. And that's the new term, you know, is the martial arts instructors say, trust your gut feeling. Like if you feel there's a bad situation, don't stick around, move on.
Yeah. Trust your intuition.
Yeah. Trust your you know, whatever wording you want to use. I really think that the person's energy is that you're feeling their energy. And, honestly, the best book that I read to kind of read that description, it's not a Christian book. It's a neat story, and there's actually some people that have kind of created a religion around it. So I'm not suggesting the book for that purpose, but there's some interesting ways that they describe energy in a book called The Celestine Prophecy.
Okay. Yeah.
So anyway, it tells a story, but the way they describe energy was very like, oh, okay, I can see that. I can see that. So I very much believe in a spiritual world. That I believe there's evil in the world. I was a prison chaplain at the state prison here in Florida, Columbia CI Annex, and so I met evil, and it actually wasn't the ones that I usually expected. I mean, I met some murderers, and I met a lot of murderers and sex offenders and stuff, but I met a couple of people that just I could feel evil. So the feeling of evil, the feeling of God, and the feeling of what Jack Hogan would do, those were all three different feelings to me.
Okay.
So that's my personal kind of description of no touch knockouts. And just a reminder, I'm not fixing to get into a self-defense situation and go, wait, stand still. Let me do this thing. No,
Yeah.
but I also don't limit humans' potential.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to get scriptural, the Bible says, Jesus said, you will do these things and greater. There's descriptions of miracles in the Bible, and he's like, you'll do these things and even greater than that. And I don't try to limit what our possibilities are. I mean, just look at some of the things that human beings are capable of. I was watching Wim Hof the other day, his ice
Oh yeah.
breathing
No,
that he
I've
does.
read
It's like,
his book.
yeah, incredible stuff. And then the Tibetan monks and uh, have you ever read the Marathon Monks of Mount starts with an M something.
No, but it sounds like a mouthful.
Yeah, they run the length of a marathon every day for 100 days.
Oh my gosh.
They fast for they fast without water for 5 days in front of a roaring fire. No food or water. I think at the end of day 3, they give them half a cup of tea because people kept dying. So
Yeah.
they give them a half cup of tea on the 3rd day.
Well, when you talk about humans having such potential, I did this several years ago, is episode 100 of my Kyusho Corner, my show, and I did it on knockouts, and I interviewed a bunch of different guys. One of them was David Hogan, and
Well,
when he talked about,
let me interrupt you for a second. That's the first time that I saw you.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think.
Well, I actually think that we met, the more and more I interact with you, I actually think that we met back in 2000 when I went to the Big Three in Jacksonville.
Okay.
And I think we met then. just randomly,
Right.
but uh, uh, but anyway, yeah. So this episode, it was kind of like I kind of felt it was like I wanted to answer a bunch of questions. I wanted to challenge, those McDojo lives and the wannabes, specifically the wannabes, because that's, that was the topic of one of my journey episodes, because they want to be McDojo life and expose the fake martial artists, but they're assholes about it.
Yeah.
They're just absolute jerks about it. So, where Rob is not, but when I was talking to David, he talked about the no touch and saying that, knockouts, of course, pressure points only work on, 100% of the time on 80% of the people. And then specifically no touches work on a much smaller percentage. So you're really not going to be able to do a no touch on everybody.
Right.
And so, through this journey of talking to different people and really asking, pointed questions, it's really, I totally think it's possible for it to eventually become combat applicable.
Yeah.
But it's not right now. Because I harassed Jack into doing a no touch on me, because I saw him out in Idaho many, many moons ago. And we had, I had gone to a couple different seminars of his, but I told him, I said, hey, I'm going out to Idaho. I want you to do a no touch on me. And he goes, well, I don't know. And he says, the only really way that I would do that is if, he says, the way I teach, I just kind of go with the flow of the questions. And I was like, okay. So he gets there and he starts talking, and I'm like, I have a question. So he's just like, just get up. So essentially I harassed him into knocking me out, but it was, I don't know, 15, 20 feet away.
Yeah.
And, I was like, I thought that was awesome. But here's the thing is that I know I'm sensitive to it. I know I'm a believer. And so, and I've seen him do it before, and I felt a little bit of it. Who was it? Dave Davies. He kind of worked a little bit of energy on me, so he knows I'm sensitive. Dave Daniels, that's what I meant. Yeah, because he's in Idaho. So sorry, Dave, if you're watching that, I didn't mean to butcher your last name. Anyway, so but it's all about putting. I mean, do you think if somebody is sensitive but not a believer, do you think that they would be? Do you think they would still fit into that model of not being able to be knocked out, without touch?
Funikoshi, Leon J. I want to come back to those two things. Okay.
Okay.
Gichin Funikoshi and Leon J. So I am 100% confident that belief it works is not necessary.
Okay.
Because I've seen it too many times. And particularly without the knockout, I've seen energy things done. You ever see the thing where you stroke down the middle and you push their arm down?
Yeah, I've done that.
Okay. So, yeah. So, I mean, that's kind of like a typical energy thing.
Right.
And gosh, that works on so many people. I've done it hundreds and hundreds of times. The thing that gets me is I'll take two people that I don't know. Like I'll be at a party where I don't know a bunch of people, and I'll tell the person that I'm talking to, usually we're talking about energy. I said, get two people that I don't know. So they'll bring two people over. I said, okay, I want you to do this. And I'm not going to explain why or what I'm doing. You're not going to hurt anybody. I said, I want you to hold your strong arm out, and he's going to try to push it down, and don't let him. And you do your hand up, or do your hand down the center of their chest. Either one, doesn't matter. Just do one and then try to push his arm down. Okay. Now try the other one. And a good 80% of the time it works. And without explaining to either person what you're doing or why you're doing it, except telling the one person, don't let them push your arm down.
Yeah.
So the other person is not envisioning energy. They're not imagining. They're not hypnotizing. They're literally just taking their hand and going just down the center of their chest without touching, and then pushing the person's arm down, and then coming up and trying to push the person's arm down. And I don't tell them which one to do first. I let them choose whether they want to go up first or down first.
Yeah. Well, TJ says that's when you make them believers.
Oh yeah.
I think that's very true.
Very cool.
So
hi Ken, hi TJ, Ken Camp, awesome. So Ken Camp is one of our black belts. TJ is one of our black belts, and he moved somewhere cold. It's actually near. It's 3 hours from where the seminar that you're going to teach with Bram Frank, where you're going to. Or no, you're not. With Jim Korn.
oh, okay.
You're going to teach
Yeah.
Bram Life Modular. So
hey Harvey.
Oh, hey Harvey. So speaking of sensitive to energy.
Oh yeah, no, I love Harvey.
Oh man, watching him over the years get zapped. I still got to come back to Funakoshi and Leon J, but I'll tell you one
Yes.
quick story about Harvey. Is Grandmaster Hogan was experimenting with emotion, and I'm sure Harvey loves it. I'm telling the story. So I'm at the seminar, and he pulls Harvey up, and he just out of the blue slaps the crap out of Harvey. I mean, just like full on face slap. Bam. I mean, it echoes around the room, and his face turns red, and he's just standing there. And Jack does energy stuff, but he does it with joy and peace.
Yes.
And that had a greater effect. Harvey became angry, and he was able to do energy techniques on Harvey even easier because of his emotional state, because he was at peace. So I don't know, have you ever seen the pictures of Morihei Ueshiba? I'm sure I destroyed his name, the founder of Aikido.
Yes.
There's this one picture where he is, both his hands are up in the air like this,
Mm-hmm.
and he's kind of like this, and he has this goofy little smile on his face.
Yeah.
And in the background, inside this little square, is a guy upside down, like way up in the air, that he had just thrown. And I'm confident that he used joy. I mean, look at his writings, and they sound very almost biblical in their poetry, and about love and joy and all kind of things. And so I think that he really did use emotional state to affect things.
Well, even
So
the kanji of Aikido, it means the way of love and peace.
oh, cool! I didn't know that.
Or at least if my memory serves me right. I could be wrong.
Yeah, well, that's kind of like judo means the gentle way. You know, I'm going to gently slam you on the ground, which is gentler than jiu-jitsu, which breaks your arm, slams you on the ground.
Right.
So the two things, Leon J and Funakoshi. So
Yes.
Leon J, so I talked with him. I mean, he told us at the seminar, but he was talking with us personally about it, that they did a Discovery Channel on no touch stuff.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah. The National Geographic.
yeah, National Geographic. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
where Dillman gets blasted.
right. And
Yeah.
basically, Leon said that everybody on the crew he was able to knock out. Everybody.
Really?
Except for the one guy that they were filming. So,
Of course. Of
yeah.
course.
So he didn't get him, but they knocked everybody else that was on the crew there to do the filming, the sound guy, the lights, the everybody. And of course, they didn't show any of those knockouts.
Yeah.
So that's interesting how it was manipulated that way.
See, and
Um,
that's a story I've never heard. I've never
yeah,
heard that. All I know is that when, Dillman was like, hey, I've got this episode coming out. It's going to be on National Geographic. It's really going to legitimize this. And so it airs and I'm watching it. I'm like, oh crap. Well, that just sealed the fate for everybody that we're all goofy, all goofy fake martial artists.
yeah.
But,
Well, I
yeah.
mean,
So that's interesting that Leon was able to do that on everybody except, of course, the person being filmed.
yeah. Dillman has a way about, how do we say, creating difficulties.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has a harsh way about things, and people, even though he has skill, and I'm thankful for him bringing the knowledge, introducing, I won't say bringing knowledge, he introduced the knowledge to Jack Hogan, which brought it to me. But anyway, Dillman's another story.
Yeah.
So I keep thinking of all these stories to tell you. So after I tell you about Funikoshi, then I want to tell you about Professor Wally J.
Okay.
So in Karate Do, My Way of Life, the autobiography of Gichin Funikoshi,
Yes.
he tells the story about a fight between two people. And when one of the guys is approaching him, the guy attacking is a skilled martial artist, but the one being attacked is like I forget how the story goes. Like he's a baker or something,
Right.
And he does a ki, and when he does his yell, his ki, the guy stumbles back, and then he starts kind of ridiculing him. And they, come on, I'm an old man. Come on, come and attack me. Come and attack me. And finally, the guy goes to attack again. He ki-eyes again, and the guy has to sit down. Like he has to walk over and sit down. And so I believe that he was describing a knockout. He just, whether you want to call it a sound knockout or not. And I kind of experimented with the sound stuff, though Jack didn't put any credence to what sounds were made, but he felt like it was the intent behind the sound more than the
Right.
actual sound was. So Karate Do, My Way of Life, it has interesting stuff in it.
And I've read that book several times. In fact, for a long time, that was a required reading for my students.
Mhm.
I recall that scene from the book, but it's interesting. I never picked that part up. So now I think I'm going to go back and reread it
Yeah.
and just look at it from a different perspective. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. So that brings me to Professor Wally J. So the father of Leon J.
Yeah.
So I was honored to attend the Big Three seminars many times in Jacksonville. I don't proclaim myself a direct student, but 60 seconds on the receiving end of Professor Wally J transformed my martial arts. I will say that, though. So uh Professor J was at one of the seminars, and we were used to be at the end of seminars. They do a bunch of people would show the knockouts that they had been working on, and somehow it came up that Professor J had never done an energy knockout, and so he experimented and grabbed me. I was right there, and I was like, "Well, try it on me." You know, I'm kind of sensitive to it. So he comes over and he's doing the preacher. I call it preacher knockout, and
Okay.
he's got that position, and he's doing it for a while, and I'm just kind of standing there, and it was funny. Jack Hogan comes up behind him, and he goes like with his hand right behind Professor J's hand, and knocked him out. So, what's new? This? That's my dad.
Okay.
So
he knocked out Wally, or he knocked out
he
you?
knocked me out, but through Wally's hands.
Okay. I've heard that story. Jack has told that story. Yes. I just never knew that was you.
Yeah,
Jack thought it was the funniest thing in the world. He goes, "Yeah, Wally's sitting there and he's trying to do this, and then I just go up behind him, and then the guy drops, and Wally's like, 'Oh my gosh, I did
it!'" Yep, and I was the guy. I was. There's a picture somewhere, but it's like I know it's me, but it's a little bit hard to tell that it's me. Like you can see Jack behind Professor J with his hand like coming up. So
okay, that's cool.
Yeah. Excuse me. No touch stuff is very interesting, that's for sure.
Yeah, I played around with it for a little bit, but it's interesting out in my area. Q show. Hold on. What does Harvey say? You had more hair then.
Oh, yes, I actually had hair. A lot more hair.
So I got interested in Q show early on in my martial arts career. My parents wouldn't let me do at least karate. My dad said I could do judo because my uncle was a judo guy, but as a kid, my parents were like, nope, you can't do martial arts because you'll hurt yourself. And I didn't want to roll around on the ground with people. I wanted to hit people. So I wanted to get in, into karate. And so I didn't start until I was 18. And then I started in Taekwondo, got into, that's when I was really introduced to pressure points because a couple of the guys were associated with Dan McCuskey. And so Dan sent a bunch of Dillman's tapes to them. And then they had Dillman out for a seminar. I think it was I think the first time he was out here was like in 92, I think, maybe 91. Anyway, so, and then that's kind of where I was hooked, doing Taekwondo. And I was like, nope, this is what I want to do. And so once Dillman started kind of promoting the whole no touch stuff, like the interest really in pressure points and all that kind of just totally decreased. And so like even I know Dillman, I don't know, Dillman kind of treated us like a redheaded stepchild out here. But and Jack came out maybe 3 times. And good amount of people showed up. But even Mark Klein, I had him out once, and then it just slowly just kind of dwindled. And just knowing the different Q show groups, when they start hearing about like, bioelectrical energy and the no touch, really the interest kind of went downhill because at least the groups that I was involved in were all like, no, we want practical martial arts. Yes, we hit a pressure point that works, but none of this hocus pocus,
Yeah.
type of stuff. And that's, so I find that, a lot of like the interest out here has kind of died. And at least to my knowledge, or at least the people that I talk with, but, I know out here that even, what is it? Kajikempo is really big out here in the Northwest. And, I don't know if they really do Kyusho. I know, Mike Mathers used to be part of Dillman, did a little bit of Kyusho stuff. And I don't want to quote him, but I remember him saying something about how, you know, when Dillman started to kind of go no touch is when he was like, nah, no, I don't really want to,
Yeah.
don't really want to go there anymore. So, but, I think I'm interested in it because it's, it's a different part of the martial arts, and it's, going back to our potential, what we could do.
Yep.
And it's a good, it's a good parlor trick, if you can.
Yeah.
And that's just like my, like the Vulcan nerve pinch, there's pressure points on the neck that,
Yep.
that will make you go out. And I even have, I have a video. It's so funny because on my YouTube channel, it is the one video that has more hits on it than anything else. I think it's got like, I don't know, 80 some thousand views.
Oh, wow.
82,000
Cool.
views. And I'm just a small guy. I'm not big on YouTube at all. But and I've actually that a clip has ended up out of that in one of those fake martial artists, compilations, which I think is kind of funny because somebody had posted it, and I like watching it, because sometimes you're just like, oh God, you're making us look bad. And then I'm watching it, I'm like, hey, that's me.
Well, I don't remember how the saying goes, but there's no such thing as bad publicity.
That's true. Yeah.
Some ways. I think that's why Dylan likes his antics.
Yeah. And so like, right now, that's one of the things that I'm working on for the show is I'm actually working just like I put a lot of time and energy and interviews and research into the knockout episode. I'm doing that same thing for an expanded Vulcan nerve pinch episode.
Oh, cool.
So, I want it to air on June 3rd because, June 3rd is the anniversary of the last Star Trek episode to air, or the original series to air. Cause it, and of course this year, 2021 is the 55th anniversary of Star Trek. So I was like, okay, well, I'm a huge Trekkie. So
yeah,
I figured I would do that. So I have a few months to be able to put it together, but I've been doing research on that. And it's funny because when I talk to people about it, it's like, and even when people chat or, leave comments on the video, it's like, oh, this is BS, or, oh, fake martial arts. It's like, dude, it's a trick. Like, chances are, yes, I've actually tried that in real situations that I can't go into detail about, but I'll admit they didn't work, but how do we know something's not going to work if we don't practice it or try it? That's the whole thing with the no touch, the Vulcan nerve pinch, pressure points in general, just Kyusho in general. Have you tried it?
Right.
You don't need to be, it doesn't need to change your martial arts. It doesn't need to, but have you even be like, and that was the whole point really ended up of my show was, here's a point, go back to your dojo and play.
Yeah.
If it doesn't work for you, then it doesn't work.
Right.
If it does, great. I've helped you out and now it's enhancing your martial arts, but it's not like the end all be all.
I remember when I was in massage school and I was studying reflexology, and this lady said that her shoulder was hurting. And I said, well, I've been studying reflexology and there's a spot on your foot that's supposed to be related to your shoulder. And I took my thumb and I pressed on the spot, and she jumped like, and grabbed her shoulder. like, like literally, like, I mean, like jumped and grabbed her shoulder. So it's very interesting how the body works. I don't know, kind of related to what you're saying. There's a knockout that I did. I had seen it and I copied it. I don't want to give away too much, but it's so the subclavicle artery and stomach 9, and you use the clavicle as a handle basically.
Okay.
And you tap a heart point on the inside of the other arm, inside the bicep. And so I tapped this, I did it, and I look over and I'm like, oh, I guess it didn't work. And I tap it again while I'm not looking. And I guess I was a little more relaxed when I did it.
Okay.
And I look up at the guy that I'm doing this to, and his pupils dilated. He like started going back. I fix him, tap wake up points. I'm like, okay, what happened? And tell me, what'd you feel? And he said that his chest got real tight and pain shot down his left arm. Honestly, after that point, I really stopped experimenting a whole lot with knockouts.
Yeah.
Particularly ones that I didn't know as well. I'll tap some gallbladder points and different things, but and I would just do them real lightly. But man, anything heart related, some of the organs. One of my students, I did lung point in the arm to bend the knee, and so I tapped that point on him, and he was tough as nails. I mean, he was a 7 years Golden Gloves boxer. He was old school Tang Soo Do, black belt. He did 7 years in prison. It was for a car he didn't steal, he said, but it was okay though because he had stolen so many other cars. Like seriously, he's like, it's okay. I stole so many other cars. That's right.
That's funny.
So this guy's tough as nails. I mean, like hard. He taught me boxing stuff, and I tapped lung point on him, and it dropped him just tapping it. And normally he was tough. Pressure points didn't have a big effect on him. He could feel them, but it didn't have a big effect. Well, that day it dropped him, and a few minutes later he was like, Sensei, I gotta go. I'm not feeling real good, and it's blah blah blah. Okay, all right, hope you feel better. Well, about 2 months later he's in class, and I said something about being careful to tap lung pressure points on people that smoke. I said, particularly marijuana, it can have a strong impact on the person.
Mm-hmm.
And he pulled me aside after class, and he said that he had smoked a joint just before he came into class. And that night that I hit his arm and dropped him. He said he was sick for about 3 days after that.
Wow.
It had just dumped everything into his system when I hit that point. So anyway, pressure points are real. They work and they affect you internally. Otherwise, they wouldn't do acupressure and acupuncture for medical stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, that's a little bit of a rabbit trail for you, but
yeah, no, here's the thing is that, when I first saw pressure points, it was one of those things where I was like, yes, this, cause and of course at the time I was doing Taekwondo. So, I actually had a friend once who said, is like, yeah, that's okay. Everybody starts in Taekwondo cause everyone has to go to kindergarten.
Yeah.
So for you Taekwondo people out there, it's a joke. We respect you anyway. Yeah. But it was one of those where it was like, I can be competitive, but I'm not a competitive sports person because I don't watch football. I don't watch, I watch volleyball because our family's a volleyball family. My wife coaches, my daughter plays, but I don't like when it comes to kind of competitive sports, that's not me. And the school that I was training through in Taekwondo, it was very, very, it was a competitive sport school. That just wasn't me. So when I saw pressure points and, locking and grappling and striking and people are going down and, tapping out because they're in pain, I'm like, I like that. I want to do that. And so it's just kind of become, I don't know, it just kind of became, that's what I focus on now.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, this is kind of a left turn at Albuquerque, but related. I shot some video before Kyusho Corner, before anything else I was doing. I had done like a couple DVDs for my school, but I did a breakdown of Taiyoko Shodan, and I don't know, I came up with 30 some applications and shot the video, lost it. I was going to put it on DVD. It was going to be called something like The Definitive Taikyoku or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I found the video the other day.
Oh, cool.
And so I had never edited it. I had shot it. And actually going through it, it's cringeworthy. Like, I'm like, okay, I can kind of see why I didn't want to promote this or edit this, into a thing, because I didn't I do everything. I'm using a webcam for this, but all my video stuff, even Bram stuff, I shoot on an iPhone. Cause especially the, once they got up into the 8s and 9 or 8s and 10s, this is a 12.
Yeah.
Amazing cameras, absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And I don't need to do any depth effects or, so yeah, shooting martial arts stuff, they work great. But this was filmed on just a camcorder. It was in my dojo before I had my nice mats and painted the floors and good lights. And so it was kind of, I don't even need to do that grainy effect of old videos. So bad. But I've been going through it, and I've actually been editing it to just kind of put it out, because it's actually, I'm like, wow, that's actually some pretty good information. The video is horrible, and of course I've learned so much in the last, I don't know how many years, in editing. So it won't look too bad, but,
I've wanted to do a video called 101 Uses for Down Block.
Okay.
Now, it's funny though, is one of the guys from Finland did a online seminar, and he did like 100, close to 100 applications for basically down block. So he kind of stole my thunder a little bit.
Well, who was it? Rick Clark. I don't know if I'm getting that name right. He put out a book called 75 Down Blocks. And that was back in, I can't remember. That was early on, late 90s, early 2000s. He had put out a book. He put out a second book, but I remember that one because I ended up picking it up. But it was, it's like you just have this one, just this one move, just a down strike.
Yeah.
And you've got all of these applications. And it's so funny because, with Taikyoku, I tell people, you could create a system around that one kata. And
Absolutely.
it's so simple.
Mm-hmm.
And then you hear, you read that old masters only ever used to know like one kata or just a couple kata, and they were so deadly,
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you just I think I counted 33 applications and variations from from what I had filmed. And even now I'm like, oh, there's something else that I can put in there. There's
Yeah.
something else that I can put in there. And so it's like, yeah, it's, when it comes to, and for me, that's really what the pressure points opened up, was this whole difference of kata interpretation and different applications.
Yeah, when I first started learning bunkai, I tried to begin with because my original instructor was old school. He was, I mean, classic old school. I started with Doug Walker here in Jacksonville, and then his student Don Steiner, and but they were just classic old school stuff. So when I started interpreting bunkai with pressure points, I started with my highest kata and spent about a month trying to figure stuff out for it. And finally, it was just like, start at the beginning. And I started with Tekioka 1 and just went through all my katas. And then by the time I got to my advanced katas, then I started seeing cool, useful techniques for some of the stupid looking things that I would never do in a fight, but now I would.
Right.
I would never do an X block an upward X block ever. I was like, that's or a low one. Oh my gosh, to block a kick with two hands down low, that's the stupidest thing ever. And it is stupid to block a kick with two hands. But then when you understand bunkai then it just becomes practical, useful stuff that you would do in real fighting.
Did you ever watch that one, Jesse Ankamp, the karate nerd? Did you ever watch that one series he put out of his trip to China?
Yeah, I think I watched all of it. May have missed one of them, but
okay. I watch his stuff every now and then, and I came upon that series, so I started at one and watched all the way through. I found it extremely interesting. But one of the things that and I can't remember if this was an outtake from that series or if it was part of the series, but one of the things he mentions in about bunkai is a potentially, at least from one perspective, we could, how we look at one move has many applications. But some of the stuff that he was learning, he says it could be many moves could be one application.
Yeah.
Because I can't remember exactly the example that he gave, but he's like, okay, we have this one technique, but it fits into this kata this way. The person's moving in this flowy motion. And then in another form, they're doing a more rigid motion. But it's all the same thing, but the motions look drastically different, but the same.
Yeah, when I started learning Tai Chi, so I do Chen and Yang style Tai Chi. I'm not certified. Well, I guess I'm certified for Dr. Paul Lamb's, or I'm sorry, I was certified in Dr. Paul Lamb's Tai Chi for osteoporosis and fall prevention. To stay certified, you have to pay a certain amount every year, and yeah, so I was certified. And it's a nice form, but I also do Chen style. I learned that from Chuck Foster. But as I was doing the Tai Chi, I started seeing my karate bunkai in the Tai Chi. So now I can look at martial arts that I've never seen before and come up with bunkai for movements. I've even seen there's a guy years ago. He did pressure point knockouts using sign language, like the hand motions of sign language. He came up with some knockouts directed for self-defense for deaf people, which I thought was pretty incredible.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And
that'd be really easy. There's some I do sign language. That was my language in college. I skipped skipped Spanish and French and did sign language. Um, and so it would be very easy to do some pressure point things with that. So.
Yeah, no, that's pretty well. And it's interesting how you can put like, and I can't remember who said it. I want to credit Getcha Funakoshi, but he said something like, if you know one form, you know many forms.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
You understand movements from one, and then you can start putting them. You just understand motion with application.
Yeah.
And
You mentioned earlier that parents wouldn't let you do judo. Well, I have a book I found at the used bookstore here. It's an incredible used bookstore. If you ever come to Jacksonville, you got to visit. And I found a pre-World War II judo book called Modern Judo, printed in 1949.
okay.
That strikes a Temiwaza pressure point strikes and explains, if you do this strike, this is what will happen to the person. Like it tells what will happen. So it's very interesting that it has strikes and kicks and pre-World War II judo.
That's cool.
Yeah. So speaking of that, a number of years ago, I taught at a seminar. I think it was one up in Georgia, and I did side thrust kick, but I
Okay.
did it as a judo throw.
Okay.
So when you lift your knee to cock your leg for the side kick, I kind of think about a hip throw, and then you just use your foot to lift their knee, and then you sort of rotate them over your leg as you extend your leg.
Okay.
So it's basically a lifting rolling, where you roll your opponent. You don't roll, but your motion is side thrust kick, but their motion is sort of like a hip throw, but you lift one of their legs off the ground.
Interesting.
So, yeah, I
Kind of cool.
wanted to come back to that from your mentioning that you weren't allowed to do judo, because you were allowed to do judo because judo didn't have striking, but original judo did have striking.
Yeah. And it's funny because, now that I'm older and I've done, I've been doing Kempo, I got into modern harness. Now that really translates into knife. So, Kempo, knife, putting Kyusho into knife. But I wouldn't mind taking like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or judo. I actually did take judo for a little bit with my step uncle, but then he decided to, blast me on Facebook, and that was mentioned in that. Yeah. So, but I thought that was kind of interesting. But so of course I didn't go back. But knowing a good ground game, I think is fun. But at the same time, I'd like to get somebody who is a good ground game person. And I know, I wouldn't have been the first person to do this. I know other people have done this, but just for my own research and even make it part of my show, that it's like, okay, well, here we have, a jiu-jitsu guy, and now we're going to put Kyusho into it. And how would Kyusho work into Brazilian jiu-jitsu? Because I find that a lot of the anti-Kyusho people are Brazilian jiu-jitsu meatheads.
So
I say that with respect.
Yeah, I came up with a knockout from the guard.
Okay.
Many years ago, is I just shift my butt to the side. I use my heel to kick gallbladder in their thigh. So I'm in the guard, my legs are wrapped around his waist. So I shift my butt to the side, and I use my head to press gallbladder on his forehead, and then my other hand reaches around and taps gallbladder on the yin yang side, the opposite
Okay.
side. It worked.
Cool.
Pretty cool. I knocked the guy out, and his head fell on my chest.
That's funny. That's funny.
I know you got to go soon.
Yeah.
I want to do a couple of things. I wore my Kung Fu Soup podcast. A friend of mine designed that for me. So that's the podcast that I did years ago. So I'm hoping to revitalize either that or some version of that. And I want to publicly say thank you for the modular knife class. I'm really enjoying. So I'm taking the modular knife class from you. So I recommend anybody that that would like to learn about knives. I recommend that you check out his class. You're a good teacher. You're
Thank you.
patient with us knuckleheads. And it's challenging teaching over the internet. You know, I know that's a learning process.
Well, I thank you for being one of the guinea pigs
Yeah.
because, I wanted to put, as I rebuilt my, my curriculum into rotating curriculum, I wanted modular to be one of those sections. And, now we're kind of moving into the stream of being able to teach live, but still, or live in person, I should say. But regardless if it's virtual or live, how do you put that into X number of classes and break it down? Because Bram only ever taught it as a seminar. You just learn the stuff in seminars. And so translating it to regular school classes, I had to kind of figure that out. And so, and actually from these classes that we've been going through, I've actually kind of broken it down where not only will it be part of my rotating curriculum, which the teaching is actually going pretty well, but just having somebody who wants to take just modular, I've kind of broken it up into you would go through a beginner's course. So I haven't figured out if it's going to be 6 weeks or 6 weeks or 8 weeks, but then you'd go through the beginner course and then you could just go into a regular meeting weekly modular and we can explore from there. But you'd have to go through and get your foundation and then explore beyond that.
Yeah.
So through these classes, there's been lots of learning on both sides. And I have to mention on Thursday, only one student showed up, and that's fine because I know other people are busy. But Thomas, famous Uki from from Kyusho Corner, and longtime black belt, good friend of mine. I was like, you need to start coming back over. Got to get you warmed back up. And especially because since we were going over decision points and switch points, it's been a challenge for me to describe that and show that virtually without, I have my cutting dummy, but that can only go so far.
Yeah.
So I had him come over and that really helped. But one of the things that, to get to my point, what we were playing with was that the virtual student, it was like, Thomas was the attacker and I was the virtual student playing through him. So Thomas would feed a 1, I would look, Chris would defend, and then he'd cut. So I was doing his moves. So there'd be a little bit, I don't know. It was kind of a weird, I don't know, little virtual interactivity game that we played. And it was actually kind of fun. Chris was like, yeah, I actually got a lot out of that.
Yeah.
So made class a little bit different. So I thought it was pretty cool. So
yeah, I love experimenting and trying new things. For the past, I don't know, about 5 years, I've been doing acrobatic yoga, acro yoga.
Yeah.
And it's, there's nothing martial arts related at all except balance, strength, flexibility, reading your partner, communication, just all the things that matter to martial arts. And it's tons of fun. So we I did a small seminar in Jacksonville, and I had somebody teach the basics of acro yoga, and Chris Chu was there, and he started experimenting doing some martial arts with the acro yoga. And so he was up in the air while at the same time doing push hands with somebody that was on the ground.
Okay.
So, like horizontal doing push hands.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, and it was, totally silly, but totally cool. Somebody bashed him on his page, and I'm like, you idiot, you don't get it. Martial arts is fun. My dream is to be like Professor J, traveling the world teaching martial arts. I mean, he didn't retire until he was 83.
Yeah.
And I don't want to die in a rocking chair.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be active. I want to be living life to the fullest,
I absolutely agree.
One of those venues to do that.
Well, I have to go because I'm having a filled. So, Young, thank you so much for coming on today. It was a great talk. I think that we could probably do this again. You mentioned Indiana. I will be in Indiana at Jim Korn's camp on the 24th of this month. So if you guys want to travel there, contact Jim Korn. I'll put a link. I'll share something in a link in the blurb below so you guys can get that information. And then next week, I'm going to have, and let's blow this up so I can. So I'm going to have Bobby Strope on. So next Saturday at 10 a.m. So he's down in Eugene. He's going to be there, or he's going to be on with me. And if you guys have hung out this long and you still have not shared, liked, subscribed, all that really neat social media stuff, please do so. Thank you for tuning in. Let's see, go down the list of people who commented: TJ, Kenneth, Harvey, Ramos, Kenneth, and did I miss anybody?
Ken Camp also. I think he was up there earlier.
Oh, Ken Camp. Yes. Yeah. So,
but I just want to say, if anybody has any questions or anything that they'd like to talk to me, I'm on social media, Young Arthur Smith III. Welcome to check me out.
Oh, and of course, June Ann Smith. She says she's here.
Love, my queen. I actually at the last seminar, she did a pressure point knockout on me. It was pretty cool. She liked.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, she enjoyed doing that a little too much.
Of course. All right. So, that's it. Got nothing to quote Jeff Probst. I got nothing else for you. And we'll see you around.
All right. Blessings. Ciao.
All right.